Thank you for sharing this video about your panic attack. It's important that we feel safe to talk about it. I've had this happen to me and felt like I couldn't say anything. Let's talk about this. On that video, I was expecting to get feedback about other people who have panic attacks. What I wasn't expecting was all the thanks about posting this. And sadly, a lot of the comments were like this. It was from a lot of dudes that felt like, you know what, I'm having a panic attack, but I don't feel like I should talk about it to anybody. And a lot of the times, I think the reason is as guys, we don't feel like we are supposed to share our feelings, or we're not supposed to tell people when we're feeling off, because we're supposed to be big, strong men, and we don't talk about that sort of stuff because to talk about it shows weakness. I'm pretty good about talking through my feelings now, but through most of my life, no way. And I remember this one time when I was a kid, I was crying in front of my mom, and my mom said, "You're too big to cry now. You need to man up." And before that time, I didn't realize that crying had an age limit. But when I started thinking about it, I didn't ever remember seeing my dad cry or any other dudes cry in my family. So anytime after that, anytime I felt the urge to cry, I would just stifle it because I didn't want to come across as like a baby or a little boy. But now I realize stifling those feelings is one of the most dangerous things that you can do. And I don't know it for a fact, but I think this is probably why a lot of kids turn to violence and then they go shoot up their schools and whatnot. Because almost every single time, it's a guy. And why is it always a guy? Because we have not been taught to process our feelings properly. And it seems like the only feelings guys are supposed to feel is happy, keep your shit together, and rage. And a lot of times whenever some dude will hit that rage point, other guys who see it will go, well, he probably should have kept his shit together a little bit better, but I understand. And the reason why they feel like they understand is because we're always in one of those three phases. Either happy, keeping our shit together, or, okay, it's gone too far. I would not be surprised at all if stories like Jekyll and Hyde and the Incredible Hulk were written because of this feeling. It's almost like a metaphor that every man has this rageful monster within him and it's just waiting to get out. And yeah, it turns into toxic masculinity, but it's not always the dude's fault that he ended up that way. Like for instance, it was my abusive mother that kept telling me to man up, be a man. Like she had any idea what it was like to be a man. I think most dudes need a couple of years of therapy at least to get over their shit, because that's the only way I was able to work through mine. I mean, it's not going to cure you. You'll never be cured, but you can handle it in a more healthy manner. Like after I had my panic attack yesterday, my wife said, I could tell that you were trying to manage it even though you were coming unglued. And I was so glad to hear that, because that meant that there was some part of me that still had a little bit of control in there. But there are so many dudes out there who do not want to talk about their feelings. They do not want to go to therapy because they see it as weakness. And I can remember when I was in therapy, one time I told a coworker that I was in therapy and he just went, gay. I was like, why is that gay? And he was like, the only people who feel like they need to talk about their feelings are women and homos. Which only tells me one thing, that those people are the most adjusted people in society. But I'm glad that I accidentally started a conversation about it being okay to talk about talking about things. In a country where most of us do not have access to healthcare, let alone mental health care, this is very important. Because I would much rather hear somebody talk about their struggles in life than to hear that they went out and committed violence because nobody listened to them. So guys, don't be afraid to talk about your feelings. If somebody gives you shit about it, fuck them. The problem's with them, not with you. You can think about it this way. Think of it as a physical wound. Say you're bleeding and you go up to somebody and say, hey, I need some help. Can you help me? If somebody responded to you with, you need to stop being a baby and get yourself together, you wouldn't stop then. You still are bleeding. You would still try and get some help, right? You just have to realize that some people are assholes, and the problem is with them, not with you. And just because you haven't got help yet doesn't mean that you're fine to get through this by yourself. There are always going to be resources out there, whether it be friends or family or hotlines or something. And if you can't find anybody to talk to about it, write it down. Journal it. Because sometimes trying to get it out of here and just getting it out into the world is kind of like throwing up. Once you're done, you feel a whole lot better. We just need to get to a point where Rage Monster is at the end of a long line of other options, not option number 3. Anyway, thank you to all the people who let me know that my video helped them in some way. Because I definitely wasn't expecting that, but I very much appreciate it.